Broadcast Center. This is 22 News in Focus. Today, an in-depth look at Hard Rock's plan to build a resort casino in West Springfield. Here's Laura Hutchinson.
Good Sunday afternoon and welcome to 22 News in Focus. I'm Laura Hutchinson. We've spent time in a number of our programs discussing the different casino proposals here in Western Massachusetts. We've spoken with MGM, Penn National, and Mohegan Sun in the past about their projects. Today we're continuing the casino conversation, this time talking to the latest gaming company to show interest in building in our backyard. In just a little bit, we'll talk to the Hard Rock International chairman about their proposal to build at the Big E. Before we get to that, we also spoke with the Gaming Commission Chairman, Stephen Crosby, earlier this week to get an update on where they are in the process of choosing a casino developer. Here's a look at that interview. Chairman, thank you so much for sitting down with us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So nice to have you again. When we first had you, you were just sort of getting started with the process, and a lot has happened since that point.
That would be right.
Why don't you update us on where you are right now in this?
Well, in very broad strokes, as you said when we were here before, the first thing we had to do was get an organization up and running. We had no staff, we had no office space, we had none of that stuff. So we had to build an organization, which is non-trivial all by itself. Now we have about 25 employees, a budget of $7.5 million, and we're underway. Second thing we had to do was make sure that we had robust competition for all of our licenses, like you have always had here in Western Mass, but we didn't have elsewhere in the Commonwealth. We've done that too. Now we've encouraged competition. We've tried to make sure everybody understood this was a level playing field. The Commonwealth is really open for business. We now have at least 3 and maybe 4 bidders for all of the 3 licenses that are up. So all of the other licenses are now as competitive as yours in Western Mass is. Then we had to get the background check process underway for all these competitors that we've now got. We've got 11 competitors, 11 bidders. And we had to write the regulations, staff up, get the state police, get in relationships with the FBI, get all the data collected so we can do comprehensive background checks on all of these folks to make sure that from the standpoint of their character and their financial integrity and their financial stability, they are the kind of people that are suitable to do business in Massachusetts. That's underway for all of those. There's almost a $5 million budget just for the background checks alone. Now we turn our attention to what is really the good part, the most fun part, given that we've got the competition, which is what are the evaluation criteria going to be. The legislature gave us some direction. Obviously, job generation, economic development is sort of priority 1. Revenue generation is probably priority 2. But then there are a host of others, like how do you affiliate constructively with the rest of the tourism industry? How do you minimize the impacts on live entertainment venues? How do you minimize the transportation, social service disruption in your host communities? And how do you really bring a facility to Massachusetts going to really attract people from outside Massachusetts, which is where the big money is. We want to bring people in from outside Massachusetts. What kinds of real enhancements and amenities can make that happen? So putting together that whole package of evaluation criteria is what we've turned our attention to right now.
So let's just say that all of these competitors right now pass the background check and they all have a plan in place. You know, what will some of these viable candidates, what can they do to make themselves really set themselves apart from the rest? I mean, everyone's going to come to you with a traffic plan, and everyone's going to come to you with some really great things. What can one do to? Well,
that's exactly what we're working on, and this is in generation right now. And if you've been watching our meetings, and all of the bidders have been watching our public meetings every Thursday, they will see us beginning to talk about these things. Yes, everybody's going to have a big, beautiful facility, although we're going to look for design excellence. We're going to look for compatibility with the rest of the surrounding community, the culture of the surrounding community, the historic characterization of the surrounding community. But everybody's going to have a big facility. Everybody's going to generate jobs. Everybody's going to generate money. Everybody's going to have a traffic plan, as you say. What's really going to take this over the top? What kinds of added relationships with the community, support of other industries in Western Mass? Is there some way you can affiliate with the higher ed that's concentrated out here? If you're in Springfield, is there some way that you can affiliate with the convention center or the various other activities that are going on here? How can you take the financial muscle of these facilities that's going to get their gambling dollars, fine, more power to them, but capture that financial muscle to do other public good for the region and for the Commonwealth? Looking for real magic there is could be, could be the sort of capstone in an application.
Think outside the box in some
That's
way.
exactly what we're asking
Looking
for.
for something unique.
Right, exactly.
At least one proposal here, Hard Rock, who's proposing to build in the Eastern States Exposition, has a proposal that's near protected land. The Natural Heritage has, the state's environmental agency has sort of set this as protected land. Protected land sometimes slows projects down, as we've seen here in Western Mass. Is that something that could potentially weigh into your decision if something is near protected land? Is that something that you would consider?
Well, environmental considerations, including protected land, is one of the many criteria that we clearly will be looking at. And we'll be working with our own Secretariat of Energy and Environmental Affairs to get their judgments and their advice, and the Mass Environmental Protection Agency to get their advice on how to do this. I don't have any idea about this particular situation. Just because somebody has to go a little bit slower to protect protected land isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it'll be considered just like all other environmental considerations are.
So not sure if it will actually hurt them in the process. It's something that will be looked at and considered, though, for sure. Agawam has also expressed concerns about being that neighboring community that could have, be negatively impacted. Any idea how you will sort of define surrounding communities and how they should be
Good question. Yeah, good question. Well, you've obviously been following this, which is good. We do have the authority to determine what community will be a surrounding community, and the legislature gives us some direction. Basically, it says if a community is going to have, in effect, a material impact or might have a material impact, then we have the authority to consider that a surrounding community and to force the bidder to negotiate an agreement with that surrounding community. We are talking now about what criteria, and we haven't decided really whether we want to leave it vague like that so that we can just do it on the facts. If an Agawam comes in or a community X comes in and says, here's why we think we're affected, we don't want to constrain ourselves by having put out parameters that maybe don't quite fit the particular facts of this situation. So, I mean, logically, it's going to be traffic impacts, school impacts, environmental impacts. It's obvious, I think, to a certain extent. But to get very specific, I think we're going to leave it on a case-by-case basis. And if there's a difference of opinion between the community and the bidder, we'll figure it out after we've seen the application, after we've reviewed the whole situation.
How much are you looking into the actual investors of these projects? Here in Western Mass, we had somebody who was affiliated with one at one point, was sort of still there with Mohegan Sun, but now has moved. Is that something that's looked at in this background check process, or?
Not necessarily that particular issue, but we certainly are looking into the backgrounds, the financial backgrounds, as I said, the financial and character and integrity backgrounds of every major player in every proposal. We're not going to get into any of the specifics about any of the cases, but every aspect and manifestation of character, integrity, financial stability, financial integrity will be on the table as we do these background checks.
Is there going to be any requirement that they have to guarantee jobs go to local people when they're doing these projects? That's something a lot of people care about.
Yeah, it's a very good question. There are two bites at the apple for that one. The host community gets to negotiate, as you know, a host community agreement that has to be approved by a referendum. The host community can say to the bidder, we want you to guarantee that you will do X% of your employees who will be from our community. That's completely within their authority. Then it comes to us, and we can add on the same kind of criteria. I don't know whether we're going to put a specific percentage in now. We're a little concerned if we put in a percentage that creates a cap, and we don't want to create a cap. Plus, it's situation specific, and a rural community is different from an urban community. I think what we will probably do is say this is a very high priority. We want to see aggressive plans. We want to see commitments to not only hiring but training, which is really important. You can't hire if you can't train, and probably not come up with a specific number, but that could change.
Okay, what does your timeline look like right now? Obviously,
it's getting closer and closer.
It is.
Yeah, we could issue the slots license. The first one will be issued, first license issued for a slots parlor, which can be anywhere in Massachusetts, as soon as this fall, September possibly, September, October. And we expect the two casino licenses, Western Mass and Eastern Mass, to be issued probably by February, March.
Wow, so
So just about a year from now.
Okay, very
So
good.
by a year from now, we could have all the licenses issued, and the slots parlor could possibly be up and running 6 months after that. So the slots parlor could possibly be in operation about this time next year.
Okay, and anything you want to let people know about this process here in Western Mass? A lot of people are watching this closely. There is so much competition. What would you say to those people who are watching this closely and hearing the side stories that are happening with the different
Yeah, that's a good
developers?
question. Well, I would say one thing would be to be very proactive, not only themselves, but with their government officials about negotiating these host community and surrounding community agreements. The legislature put out a law that puts a tremendous amount of authority in the local communities. A barrier, a block authority in the host community, and a strong and a requirement that a bidder negotiate a satisfactory agreement with every surrounding community. So it needs to be happening now. People should be thinking about it now. If you think you're going to be a surrounding community, your city officials town officials should be in touch with us. We have money to distribute to support this. We'll do the research on our own, or you can do the research. We will pay for it, or the bidders will pay for it. So I would say the key thing is to be really proactive in negotiating the best possible deal for your community right now.
Very good. Chairman Crosby, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Good luck with this process.
Thank you. It's been something.
Thanks
It's getting
for joining
fun.
us.
Thanks.
And we'll talk to Hard Rock International after this. Stay with us. You're watching 22 News in Focus.